So what is going on, guys and girls? Welcome back to the channel. Of course, if this is your first time here, welcome to Gunpla University, soon to be your #1 place for all things Gunpla. But let's kick right off with the video. But real quick, can I get a like down below for the specs, guys? You see I'm wearing the specs today. And yeah, I've got this crazy tan going on right now because I've been out riding my motorcycle. So, you know, as you can see, I've got a little bit of a line here from the gloves. But, what are you gonna do, right? But got a super special video for you guys today. As you guys know, I'm a real big fan of Mr Hobby paints. I use Mr Hobby Lacquers in pretty much every single build that I do. So first off, I gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor for today's video, and that is spraygunner.com. Shout out to spraygunner.com, guys. And make sure you guys go check out Spraygunner and let them know that I sent you. Spraygunner is an awesome place and will probably end up being your #1 place to get all things to do with your airbrushing needs, your paints, your airbrush, your compressors. They've got all of it. They specialize just in airbrushing. So make sure you guys go check them out and let them know that I sent you. But yes, they are today's sponsor. And so we have to give a shout out to Spraygunner. But what are we taking a look at? So we're taking a look at the Mr Hobby Aqueous colors, and they were nice enough to send me this entire starter set of aqueous colors and thinner. And this is an acrylic paint here, and it's a water-based acrylic paint. And this is a little bit different for me because you guys know I'm used to using the lacquer-based paints, but acrylics are really good paints from what I hear. I know a lot of people use them, a lot of people love them, but for the most part, from what I know of acrylics is, one, they're a lot safer to use, and two, they're not as strong and resistant to scratches as lacquer-based paints. So this is the new formula that Mr Hobby has come out with. From what I understand, they recently went through and revamped the Aqueous line of their paints. And that revamp came with, of course, some new branding, but as well as from what I've read online, there's supposed to be less odor. There's also supposed to be a little bit stronger, more durable, closer to the lacquer paints is what they're claiming. In addition to that, they're also supposed to dry a little bit quicker, and the finish is supposed to be nicer. So what I'm gonna do in this initial look at these paints here, I'm gonna go ahead and mix these up. I'm gonna do one batch or one bottle for each one of these with our Mr Hobby Aqueous thinner. And one thing I do want to note is that these paints are water-based paints. However, the Aqueous thinner that I have here is a alcohol-based thinner, but these are water-based paints, so you can, if you want to, mix water with these to thin them down. And the aqueous thinner here tells us to do a 1:1 or a 1 to 1.5 ratio. So I'm gonna start off by doing a 1:1 for all of these because I'm hoping that I have enough to do, to be able to thin all of these out. And if I do have enough to thin them out, then I'll go ahead and do a 1 to 1.5, because for my lacquers, I tend to do either a 1 to 1.5 all the way up to a 1 to 2. So, but yeah, we're just gonna do an initial test on these, just to kind of get a feel for how they spray out, how they look, how the finish is, and we'll probably do a 1 to 2 hour soak on them. So just so I can see how that finish looks once it's a little bit dry, at least dry to the touch. And I'll probably do a little bit of a strength test just to see how strong these paints are at about an hour or two. Later down the line, we'll do a more in-depth review of how strong these paints hold up and how the finish comes out. So yeah, we'll get started with thinning all these paints out and get them all applied to spoons. And just so that we have something to reference, I'm also gonna go ahead and spray 1 spoon with a blue Mr Hobby's lacquer paint, just so we have something to compare it to as far as quality. So with all that being said, guys, let's head on over to the paint booth and we will get these mixed up and apply it to a couple spoons, and we'll come back here and see how they all look. It's recording. So.
Huh?
It's recording. Oh, I'm keeping that part in.
Oh, the light's not on.
You don't have to be on. Yeah, it's recording.
It doesn't say record.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. I see it. It doesn't say record.
What's wrong with that?
I can't see.
It's recording.
Oh, it is recording. It says record.
All right, so here we go, guys. I've got my spoons all done up here. And by the way, I'm sure you can see I switched shirts. I didn't want to paint in my my nice Euclid shirt. But yeah, so we've got our 5 different colors here, and I also did the one in lacquer here. This is just a number 5 Mr Hobby Lacquer Blue. And yeah, it just has kind of something to kind of level set us. So here are my 5 spoons here, and what I did was I went ahead and I did a kind of a rough 1-to-1 ratio for the paint. I did the same way that I do my Mr Hobby Lacquers, and that's just kind of eyeballing it, and that's always worked out really well for me. And so I did the same thing here with the Mr Hobby Aqueous thinner. And I will say the very first thing that stood out to me for these aqueous colors, guys, is so normally with my lacquers, I usually run a between a 1.5 to a 2 on my thinner. I like to have my lacquers like really wet. And I know that probably sounds a little odd and you're probably wondering if it runs on me. Guys, I never have a problem with runs with my lacquers. But with these, I went ahead and did the 1-to-1 or very close there too, like what's recommended on the bottle, which is lower than what I normally run. And I will say that these still came out kind of thin. They definitely feel a little bit thinner than the lacquers. Now I tried to stick to 3 coats for each spoon. However, I will tell you that both the white and the yellow did get a handicap, and I did about 5 coats on those because white and yellow just in general tends to be a little bit harder to really get good pigmentation down. But I will say I really love the blue, the black, and the red. I think those came out amazing. For whatever reason, I think the pigment in those is a little bit stronger. It could be that, you know, it just wasn't mixed as well, but I made sure to mix everything very well. And the pigment in these particular 3 came out amazing, I think. But yeah, so that's my number 1 thing is with these, I would probably stick closer to that 1-to-1 ratio. I don't think that I would do a 1.5 to a 2 on my thinner ratio for these, just because these did feel a little bit thinner. And then you can see here on this white where I got a little bit of a run there. And same thing here on the yellow. The yellow wanted to run on me a little bit as well. And maybe that's just me being a little heavy-handed with these 2 colors, since these 2 are the 2 colors that are kind of the worst to try to get good coverage on. But as you can see with the black, the red, and the blue don't really have that issue. So maybe we can just chalk that up to me being a little heavy-handed on those. And another thing with that as well is these definitely don't dry as quickly as my lacquers. With my lacquers, I can definitely roll over them really quickly, and as soon as I make the first pass, that first pass is pretty much dry enough for me to go back right over top of it and make the second pass. With these ones, you probably need to take a little bit of a pause depending on how much paint you're spitting out before you try to run back through and do that that second or third pass. Otherwise, you're probably liable to have this kind of build up on you. The second thing I want to say about these is I'm very impressed with the glossiness that is coming out of these. You know, I will say that they don't look quite as glossy as my lacquers, and I think that may have a little bit to do with the Mr. Color Leveling Thinner versus the Aqueous Thinner. I'm not sure if the Aqueous Thinner has a retardant in it to kind of make things kind of level out like the Leveling Thinner does. But in a later on video, that's something I'm definitely going to try. We're going to try to look at the difference between using the Aqueous Thinner and the Mr. Leveling Color Thinner. And I think that it will find some interesting differences by doing that. So definitely look out for that video because we'll do a couple of tests there. But either way, I'm very happy with the glossiness of this. As you guys see here, I mean, there's definitely some really good shine as you go through these colors here. And the way my studio lights are kind of set up, you know, you can't really see too much in the white, but if I move the white into maybe where this yellow is, you can see the yellow's got some great shine going on. Let's put the white in that spot and you can see a little bit better the shine on that white. The red is looking gorgeous. Same thing with this black over here. Oh yeah, so right here is kind of the sweet spot on my desk where you can really see the shine. And that thing is, I mean, they're beautiful. They came out really good. I would say they're pretty much mirror maybe not mirror finish, but they're very, very close. I can see myself in the spoons, which that's kind of my test. If I can clearly see myself in the spoon, then I know that the clarity's really, really good. So, and in all 5 of these, I can see myself. I can see enough detail to see the fact that I have glasses on and that my mouth is moving. So that right there should tell you that the glossiness on these are pretty good. I'm very happy with it. But real quick, let's take a closer look between my good old standby, my Laqcuer blue versus this aqueous blue. And if you put them side by side right here, you will see, all right, kind of for me, when I'm looking at this, I can kind of tell that the Laqcuer is a little bit smoother. It is a smoother texture paint. And I think that's attributed to the leveling thinner. However, you know, I'm very impressed with this aqueous color as well. I mean, it's so minimal. You wouldn't notice it unless you were actually looking at 2 spoons like this side by side. And at that point, you could probably tell that the Laqcuer one is a little bit smoother. But as far as shine goes, shine is also very comparable. But again, looking at these really, really closely, the Laqcuer based spoon here is a little bit shinier. I can see myself in both. I can see the detail in both. I can see my glasses. I can see my mouth moving. However, inside of this Laqcuer spoon here, I can see just a little bit more detail. And just so that I can make sure that the texture is not something that just attributed to that spoon, take a look at some of these other ones. So here's the white next to the blue. And what I'm looking for right now is really just the texture and the smoothness. And, you know, for the most part, like I said, if you didn't have the Laqcuer based paint right next to it, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. This paint did come out very, very smooth, especially on this red. This red came out amazing. I think probably with the red spoon, I think it was just probably a little bit smoother to begin with, which probably helped out. But yeah, that red came out amazing. And let's see here, the black, same thing with this black here. So one last thing that we kind of have to test, something that we've got to see, you know, in order for us to conclude our initial test of these paints, is the durability. I definitely want to see how durable is it at this point. Now, I don't expect any of these paints, including my Laqcuers. Well, I don't know. Laqcuers are pretty boss. We'll see. But I want to see, you know, how durable they are at this point. And at this point, they've all been kind of sitting for about an hour. So we're not very, very long into the cure process. However, at about an hour at this point, I think my Laqcuers are going to stand up pretty good. So I'm just going to take my fingernail and we're just going to go over them real quick and see what they look like. And yeah, let's take a quick scratch to them. So first off, real quick, I'm going to start off with my Laqcuer spoon real quick. And I'm just going to, let's just pick like here at the corner or something, or let's pick down here. We're going to pick down here in this corner, and, or actually I'll do it on this side where there's light. And I just want to kind of scratch this a little bit. Now I can feel when I'm touching this lacquer that it's kind of got a little bit of give to it. You can kind of feel where it hasn't cured all the way, so it has a little bit of a mushiness to it, but I'm scratching it fairly lightly. And nothing's happening. There's no paint coming off. It's not breaking into a chip or anything. I'm not seeing any scratches. I can take my finger across it. Doesn't leave any fingerprints or anything on there. I can actually wipe my fingerprints away, no problem. But scratching it here in this corner, you know, lightly, of course, is not doing anything, but I'm not going so light that it's not a good test. But I'd say about medium pressure. So now let me scratch a little bit harder. I scratch a little bit harder. Yeah, I don't know, that was pretty hard that I was scratching just now, and still looking good. So we're still looking good here on the lacquer one. So there we go, there's our level set. So now let's jump into our first acrylic one. This is the blue. So we'll start off with this one. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna start off lightly here in this corner, and actually holding up pretty good. Now, one thing I will say that I'm seeing on this one is there is a little bit of paint coming up, but not much. It's holding up really well, actually. You see me wipe that away. It actually feels pretty dry to the touch. There's no gumminess. Actually, this is actually pretty decent, actually. I don't know if maybe that was just a little film or whatever, but when I first started scraping it, it almost looked like I was getting a little bit of film off of the top of this. But now, I don't know, this feels pretty good, actually, guys. So let me scratch this a little bit harder. I'm gonna go a little bit harder on this. Okay, so yeah. So as soon as I tried to like dig in, I made a little bit of a dent there. See if you guys can see that. There's a little bit of a nick there that I made. So it is definitely softer. Let me see, how much pressure do I have to put? All right, so I have to put definitely a little bit more pressure on this lacquer based one, but I can do the same thing. So, but it actually stood up very well. I mean, you'd have to really, Okay, so that was pretty hard. It did take me a little bit to do that, and that was scraping back and forth with really good pressure in order to get that off. So I would say that was actually really good. If the lacquer based spoon was a 10 out of 10 on like a strength scale, just from feeling it, that was probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It actually held up pretty well. Now, considering that you're probably gonna mostly get scratches in your paint from parts touching each other, here, I'm rubbing this pretty good, guys. And as you can see, we're actually not getting any damage. So you've got to really kind of work this thing. And I'm not going light on it. I'm actually really impressed by that. That is not bad. That is not bad at all. So, yeah, I mean, even just doing that just now, guys, I'm not seeing any scratches coming in there. I'm also impressed by the fact that this is actually really kind of dry. I thought that this would be a little bit more wet because I've heard acrylics don't dry as fast as lacquers, but maybe that's more so about curing. And maybe this wouldn't happen so quickly either. Like that little dent there, maybe that wouldn't happen so quickly either if it had longer to dry. But this is only about an hour in. So, and it's probably like 80 degrees outside, and humidity's pretty high here in Virginia. So I'm impressed with that. Let me just run over these other ones real quick, make sure it's not a fluke. So here's our black, and same thing with the black. It's very dry, no problem there. Wipes well. I don't see it leaving any fingerprints or anything. The glossiness is very nice. This is actually, all right, so with the black here, I was able to make a scratch right there. Now, let me see, you guys can barely see that. Now, I will say, I'm kind of going a little bit harder now since the blue impressed me so much. But Okay, so yeah, that time I was able to pull it up. If you guys see right there, I was able to pull that up finally. But still very impressive. I mean, you're gonna be hard pressed to do that amount of damage to your paint, as far as like your colors actually rubbing up against you, or your parts rubbing up against each other in order to make that kind of damage. So far on as far as durability, for having only sat for about an hour, I'm impressed. All right, so that one definitely came up a little bit quicker there, and I feel like my thumb just kind of caught it at the right angle, and that's why that one got caught. But yeah, I mean, for only having sat for about an hour, I'm actually impressed with this. It's definitely really nicely dry to the touch. You still got that nice shine to it, even though I'm like mashing it into my hand and everything, and I'm still able to like rub all of these fingerprints out, right? No problem. Still very, very nice glossiness, and as far as durability, I think I'm sold. Now, let's see here. So yeah, guys, I'm impressed with these. I didn't think that they would be, I don't know. I think I kind of expected them to kind of have a catastrophic failure when I went to scratch them, especially with them having only sat for, about an hour. Because people are always saying that, acrylics are the weakest of the paints when you come down to lacquer or enamel and acrylic. They're always saying, acrylic is the weakest. And from everything that I know, that's still true, even with these. However, these are much stronger than I was expecting them to be, with the added health benefit with being able to spray with acrylics, and seeing that they're as strong as they are. If you're someone who has children, or maybe you don't have a well-ventilated area, or maybe you've got some like property issues as far as like a landlord or whatever that doesn't want you spraying lacquer paints indoors, being able to spray acrylics indoors without, too much health risk is really nice, especially if, they can stand up and be this strong. Now, of course, they say that, acrylics aren't dangerous. However, as you guys have seen in the video, I still wear my mask, but part of the reason for that was the fact that I primered all of these spoons with a lacquer-based primer, so it was still necessary to wear my mask for that. And at that point, you might as well just keep the mask on anyways. So, and I always recommend to people anyways, if you can wear a mask, just wear a mask. There's no need to inhale this stuff for no reason. So I'm excited to really dig in and test out these paints a little bit more, put them through the ringer, see if they're really worth it. So I got to give another huge shout out to Spray Gunner. Thanks so much for sending me this starter kit and allowing me to share this with my Gunpla University family out there. So guys, make sure that you go down there, support Spray Gunner. Go see them at spraygunner.com. I will leave a link down below. Go see them for all of your airbrushing needs. They've got pretty much everything that you could ever think of when it comes to airbrushing. If you're looking to get started, go check them out. And yeah, make sure you guys tell them that I sent you. Maybe we can get a code here soon. Yeah. So definitely go check out Spray Gunner. So there you have it, guys. The only thing that is left to do is make sure you like and share the video, and then head over to Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. Go see me on all of these social media platforms, and I will see you guys back here next week. And also make sure that you guys come join us for our live streams, 10:30 Eastern on Saturday nights. And yeah, everybody be safe. Love you guys. See you later. Peace. Love lacquers.